does find him. And now we've discovered that Cass has fancied himself into some kind of a love guru that's hosting orgies.
Good on you, Cass. He is basically talking to all these beautiful women, talking about how the key to shared perception is surprisingly physical. And I think we need to kind of delve into this idea of this guru who teaches people. Let's talk about sex cult. Let's go to lore.
Oh, lore.
All right, so we are going to travel back in time again. Let's get some angel boops on our heads. And
Angel
this
boobs.
time, little angel boops. And this time I'm craving some good, like healthy vegetarian food. So let's go to the famous Source restaurant in 1971 Los Angeles. You know, maybe we'll see John Lennon or Yoko Ono or Joni Mitchell or the other celebrities that like to hang out there while we chow down on some alfalfa sprouts and mashed yeast, which they didn't actually serve. That's just a line from Annie Hall, which actually was filmed a scene there as well. So all right, we're back in 1971. We walk in and we find this indoor waterfall. There's candles and Zen music, and the staff are all really attractive, but dang, do they look like hippies? We meet a young woman named Robin who says she's married to the owner. She tells us that every kind of person comes here, man, including a lot of rich Beverly Hills matrons. We also draw a lot of smiling swamis in white turbans and those flowing Eastern garments. Ooh, let's check out this menu. Oh, it's all vegetarian. That's pretty
Mm.
exciting. Oh, look, there's a salad, and a salad, and a salad, and a salad, and
Hmm.
a salad.
Not the
And
most creative menu.
um, and frankly, you know, honestly, it sounds really good. It's just like pretty much like raw food, but it's this was like we'll get into this. This is one of the very first like vegetarian restaurants in the States. But let's say if we want a high protein salad for $3.25, we can get that. That's going to be romaine, alfalfa sprouts, scallions, cottage cheese, almonds, avocado, tomatoes, and a hard boiled egg. That's our high protein. The Chinese
Mm.
salad, which is also $3.25, has bean sprouts, scallions, radishes, celery, green pepper, cauliflower, almonds, cucumbers, tomatoes, mushrooms, and a special dressing of sesame oil tamari sauce. So it's all just straight up vegetables.
Hmm.
What I think we should go with is the Source Special, which is an open faced sandwich on whole wheat bread that's topped with guacamole, mushrooms, alfalfa sprouts, tomatoes, melted cheese, and the famous lemon herb dressing with a salad.
Sounds delicious. I would eat that.
Actually, yeah, it sounds pretty good. Uh,
I would eat that. I'm just saying.
yeah. So as we're at this restaurant, we're looking around and we ask Robin, "Who is that handsome man? He's very tall. He's 6'6". He's got these striking blue eyes, long wavy white hair, and he's in a robe." And she says, "Well, honey, that's Father Yod, aka Jim Baker, aka Yahweh." Wait, is this restaurant a cult? Oh, it
Ooh.
is. It's a restaurant and a cult.
Can have it all.
You're gonna
Can
have
have
it
it
all.
all.
I'm actually pretty. It was like I had no idea this existed. This was really a really famous place, and I kind of this is what happens when you start googling sex cults in the middle of the night. So we're gonna figure out how the fuck this all happened, and we have to start off with the dickwad, Father Yod, aka Jim Baker. He was born on the 4th of July, like a Yankee Doodle dandy, in 1922 to Jim and Cora Baker in Cincinnati, Ohio. His father was a firefighter. That doesn't matter much because he left his family at 6 months old. So he takes off. His mom, Cora, is basically earning a living as a domestic, but then the Great Depression comes. So she is having to move all around to feed the family and or the just Jim. And because I don't think he had brothers and sisters. If he did, it doesn't say. So but he's also working because this is, you know, child labor times, it's depression.
Yeah.
And he's doing a lot of outdoor work, and supposedly he becomes America's strongest boy at age 12. Like it was a thing that was given to him. He gets really interested into wellness and fitness, and he becomes fascinated with the health nut and bodybuilder Paul Bragg. the founder of Bragg Live Foods. So like the liquid aminos and the cider vinegar things
Apple
you
cider
see.
vinegar. I think I've got some in my cabinet.
Yeah. So that founder, Paul Bragg. So he's reading up
With
on his stuff.
the mother.
With the mother.
That's the apple cider vinegar.
Yeah. So Jim is 14 years old and he gets hemorrhoids. He gets hemorrhoids so bad the doctors are like, we need to do surgery, which it probably just means they probably just go and like cut off your hemorrhoids, but whatever. So Jim asks Mr. Bragg to come to him and help him, and he does. And he's like, son, what you need is a low-fat, high-fiber diet. So he's like, let's try this, and it cures his hemorrhoids. What? Which is, at that time was probably very radical advice. Just like, don't eat the shit in the can, eat this, like actually eat fresh vegetables. Because in the 70s, like everyone just like, we just want to eat TV dinners, right?
Right.
But from this experience, like Jim in his obsession with wellness and obsession with Paul Bragg takes this idea to heart that just like food can cure everything. Food can be the answer. So that's in the back of his head. So in 1941, at age 19, he moves to Chicago. He goes to the Swedish School of Massage, gets a job at a printing plant, marries the boss's daughter, and together they have a daughter of their own, and her name is Peggy. Well, that same year, though, World War II broke out. Well, specifically Pearl Harbor happened. And so, like most young men at that time, he joins. He joins the Marines, and while he's stationed overseas at Guadalcanal, he becomes fascinated with Eastern mysticism and martial arts. He studies judo. That's not a word. He studies judo and jujitsu.
Like voodoo and judo at the same time.
Yeah, yes. So, but also add in the jujitsu, so fujitsu. Yep.
There you go.
But he becomes a master and eventually becomes a judo instructor for the Marines. So while he's overseas in Japan, he pops the CEO in his face, and he gets put into the brig.
Okay, that's frowned upon. That's my military
typically
expertise.
Like I don't know if it was a CEO or just an instructor. It was someone of higher rank, and he punches him in the face. Not a great temper.
Frowned upon.
Not a good thing, right? So he's in the brig, but while he's down there, the ship starts to get attacked. So they let him out so everyone can abandon ship. But instead of abandoning ship, he takes a hold of the anti-aircraft guns and shoots down 13 planes.
Okay, so he's kind of a badass.
He's kind of a badass. He's a jujitsu, when you look at pictures of him, you're like, oh, this was a burly man. He was 6'6", and like I can also just picture him like on like this thing like, take that.
How annoying was this guy though to talk to? I bet.
Oh no, he's gonna get real annoying.
Well, I just mean like in general. I'm always like, oh, I bet he's just so annoying. Like if you meet this guy, you're gonna know that he's into
a health
and jiu-jitsu and he's a health food person.
Yes,
you're gonna know that within like minutes. This is like your equivalent of like a vegan CrossFitter. Go ahead. Sorry.
He's pretty much
for the era.
He is almost literally a vegan CrossFitter because he's really into exercise. He really is a vegan. He's really into raw foods. But all right, so the ship sinks. Sadly, he doesn't die. I guess he probably just like it doesn't say what happens, like how he got off the ship sinking. I don't know, you probably like swam 10 miles or rode a dolphin or something. So he goes back to Chicago and he hooks back up with his wife and his daughter, but also just starts doing. Sorry, the family business beer is making me burp a lot. I will probably edit most of that out, but just so you know, that's why there's some pauses here.
It happens.
So he's doing a bunch of random stuff in Chicago. Like he opens a gym, he tries acting, he's teaching jujitsu. And then he's just like, oh, hey, they're holding auditions for Tarzan in LA. So he just jumps on a motorcycle and goes to California, leaving Margaret and Peggy behind. Bye.
Huh.
I want to be Tarzan. So he gets to LA and they're like, you're too big to be Tarzan. You're a very large man. Yeah. So that is not fulfilled. But while he is there, he does meet a woman named Elaine. And she becomes his second wife after knowing him for 6 weeks.
Oh,
So, yeah. So,
okay.
he is supporting them, making belts and sandals, and they both start getting really into countercultural philosophies. So, Eastern misses like more, we want to learn about yogis, we need a guru, all the stuff, which is great. In
Hmm.
1955, when he was 33, this is also something I kind of respect, but so he had a neighbor who had a pit bull, and the neighbor was apparently treating the pit bull badly. So he went over to tell the neighbor to knock it off. The
Oh.
neighbor then pulled a knife on him, then Jim killed him with his bare hands and basically judo chopped him to the throat, and he died.
Did you remember that famous YouTube video for a minute where it was the was it the redneck ninja, and he'd be like Judy chop. It was a YouTube video. It was like when YouTube like first heard him. Oh god damn it! I'm gonna find it now.
Yeah, we'll find
Judy,
it.
he called it a Judy chop,
A
and he would
Judy
show you how
chop.
to do it. Yeah, it was a
Yep.
Judy chop.
So, well, not great murdering somebody.
No, that's frowned
Also,
upon.
but also the guy was treating his dog poorly and you should die. So, this one I'm kind of okay with. And so was the jury. And he was
Mm.
acquitted on self-defense. So apparently this time killing somebody really struck a nerve, and he was like digging deeper into this whole wellness mysticism shit.
Hmm.
And so he and Elaine opened what is ostensibly the US's first organic restaurant, named the Aware Inn on Sunset Boulevard in 1957. It was very successful and a Hollywood hotspot. So all of like Garbo and other people are like, no, she was old at this time, but the important Hollywood people are coming into here because they're just like, ooh, good food. And so all these hot women are coming in, and Baker's a dick, and he just starts cheating on his wife a bunch. So in this goes on, and in 1962, he starts bonking an actress named Jean Ingram. And while she was separated from her husband disagreed that they were separated. So he finds out that this affair is going on, and in 1963, he walks into Jim's office with a gun. At the end of whatever happened, this husband was shot and also judo chopped to the head and was dead.
Hmm.
So he's now killed another man.
Yeah.
And
Now, like the first one, okay. The second one's like, well,
I'm
you
sensing a
can't make it
pattern.
a habit.
Yeah. So this time he does get convicted of manslaughter, but due to all sorts of things from the public and all things that going on, he was sentenced to 5 months and gets out in 3 months. But this also just kind of made him a bigger celebrity, and the
Hmm.
restaurant business just booms at this, right? So he and Elaine open a couple of more restaurants, but he just keeps whoring away. And eventually, after 17 years of marriage, Elaine divorces him in 1965. And in the divorce, she kept the Aware Inn, and he kept the restaurant, the Old World. So
Hmm.
in 1966, he decides to go to Samoa to find himself, and I don't know if he was looking for the rock or what was happening there. Apparently, according to him, he saved a tribe with organic food and was awarded the chief's daughter. And if this was true, he also left her, and he goes back to LA. So he's back in LA. He's 45 now, and he meets a
Hmm.
19-year-old French hippie named Dora.
Oh.
We're going to start seeing a pattern. So he's
Yeah.
45 and she's 19. Dora is like, hey, have you tried this acid or any of these other drugs that I have?
Oh.
And he is like, woo, I have not. And so he just gets
Oh.
really heavy into boozing and drugging, and he starts stealing from his own restaurant. The investors of the restaurant do figure this out, and so he ends up selling his restaurant, and he and Dora go to Mexico where they are married. So in 1968, they come back to LA, and supposedly he meets a stranger named Ray Feldman in hiking in the valley, which is also it's LA. I can honestly see like we were hiking in the canyon, and then I met this actor, whatever. So he tells Ray all about Jesus's secret vegetarianism, based on some scriptures that he found. It's basically like QAnon level conspiracy shit of the 60s. You know,
Okay.
like in the back of some magazine, it was like these gospels exist, and in these gospels, Jesus was a vegetarian, and that
For
was
sure.
his whole message. And so this guy was like, "This sounds great. Here's some money." And so the Source restaurant is opened on April 1st, 1969. Ooh, 69. All right. So this restaurant starts, and it's first off, it's like it starts off all vegan, which doesn't work, and they change that to kind of vegetarianism. The servers, so, are all hired based on their aesthetic appeals. They're basically hiring hot young hippies. At
Right.
this time, Dora leaves Jim and goes to France, and while she's away, he gets married again. They weren't divorced yet.
I was gonna say, like, he's got some polygamy issues, right?
Yeah. And so, but don't worry, she got married too. So she goes to France and gets married. Then I guess like the other spouses find out about each other, but Dora's like,
That's
"I'm over you." But this also is like, I think, one of the few times that a woman left him, and he's just like, "Whoa, how
like
dare you,
what?
this bitch, leave me, even though I married somebody else." But
Right.
so he never
Because
really gets over her. Uh, so one night he's at one of his fancy Hollywood parties or whatever goes on in LA, and he meets Yogi Bhajan, who is a Kundalini yoga master. And according to Jim, he was upset that Bhajan was getting more attention than he was, and he goes to leave. "Meh, I'm gonna go home. Nobody likes me here." And Bhajan put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Son," and invited him to morning meditation. So, of course, Jim, I grew up without a father figure, and I wanted to just go to every man who calls me son. It's just
right.
like, yeah, this is my dude. I'm gonna, he's my guru.
Yes.
So he starts following him around. He starts dressing in all white robes and converts to Sikhism, which Bhajan was also a member of. Then he starts getting a little more obsessed. So at the restaurant, he puts cards on the table that says Bhajan is God. And
Whoa.
Bhajan is like,
No, no, no. I'm not
"Hey,
really God.
what?
Hold
What?
on.
What?" So he sends people to, like, guys over, like, "Take those cards off." So these guys, like Bajan's guys, come and they take the cards off, and Baker just makes new ones and puts them back. And then Bajan is like, "All right, you're banned from my ashram," and he bans him. Then Jim just like breaks into it, and who knows where this would have gone if there hadn't been another 19-year-old. So now he meets this lovely young woman named Robin, who
Oh.
likes to go eat at the Source in a white bikini, and she's a dancer at the Whiskey, just partying, cool chick.
Yeah.
And he just starts stalking her. And
Okay.
she keeps asking her out, and she's like, "I don't want to go out with you." He starts following her up and down Sunset Boulevard in his
Ew.
car while she's walking. I mean, like, "Come out with me. Come out with me. Hey, baby, let's go to this Kundalini yoga class. You'll love it. Like, turn on, man." And finally, I think out of just like desperation or frustration, she is like, "All right,
Gross.
if I go out with you, then will you just fucking leave me alone?" Which
Right.
I hate that. I know as a woman, we've all been battered into this. And like, hashtag, no, don't do that anymore, ladies. No, we're done.
Mm-mm.
We're over that. So, but then something weird happens. Well, weirder than whatever has been
I was
happening
gonna say,
already. So Robin agrees to go out with him. And instead of what her plans were for that night, and her plan for that night was to go to her friend Sharon Tate's house. Guess what happened at her friend Sharon Tate's house that night?
whoa, Sharon Tate got killed.
She got killed by the Manson family. So yeah. So the next day, Robin wakes up and she hears this, and she's like, oh shit, this is destiny. This is
Destiny.
fate. Jim's a prophet.
Oh no.
Yep. Yep. So basically, she becomes his first disciple. They are married 3 months later.
Of course.
So by the fall of 1970, the restaurant is failing because Baker's just not that great at running a business at this point.
Right.
So he's like, "I'm going to go to India and go visit my friend Yogi Bhajan." While this is happening, Robin's like, "Cool, he's gone." And she takes over the restaurant and makes it work. Like
Okay.
all the staff like gets into shifts, and like basically, yeah,
She runs it.
yeah.
She fixes
She's
it.
just like, okay, which I feel like this is like the Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, where it's just like the one, like, if you did that one guy just left, the restaurant would be fine.
Yeah. The one toxic person in the business.
Yep, yep.
Like, no, you can still be the owner, but you can't fucking be here.
Yeah, you can just be the owner in another building or another country.
Yeah.
So while he's over there, though, Baker does get the revelation that no, he's not meant to follow spiritual leaders. He is a spiritual leader.
That's, that was the last piece that just had to fall into place for him.
Oh no, there's other pieces that have to fall in, like young women's vaginas. But so he comes back and he's like, now he's just like dressing full on guru. He's just in his flowing robes. His hair is growing out, getting all like nice and guru-y. And he starts calling himself Father Yod, which is a takeoff of something to do with Yahweh. And he starts building his.
I just think of Chode.
Yep. We may just call him Father Chode for the rest of this episode because it's not wrong. So he wants to build the enlightened human race, and Robin becomes his biggest advocate and promoter because he's a prophet. And the restaurant starts having Sunday morning meditation class, and Baker is there and he's teaching classes in meditation, religion, Eastern philosophy. So part of it is just like him being like, this is how you meditate. Also, like, this is how you do the weird Kundalini yoga breath. And if just YouTube Kundalini yoga and you'll see what the breath is. I've done it. It's weird. But he's just channeling the word of God and just like rapping with his students, just like, ugh. And in 1971, he and Robin together write the book Liberation, and includes his 10 commandments for the Aquarian age because, also he's convinced we're living in the Aquarian age. He's one of them. I guess they're all, this is the 70s. Everyone's a cult. Everyone is into a cult. A cult and cults.
Sure.
So he writes his own 10 commandments. We don't have time for me to read all of them, but we'll do a cherry pick like they did. So they basically just cherry picked from other religions. They're like, we're taking the best parts, which is what I think most religions do. So his first commandment was obey and live by the teachings of your earthly spiritual father, aka me. Number 2, love your earthly spiritual father more than yourself, aka me.
These are very convenient. Very convenient.
Right? Isn't that, but so good that like he was able to get these. So part of it is harm not one of your body parts, either by neglect, food, drink, or knife. That goes into things later, but one, that's you need to be a vegetarian, eat well. Don't drink, even though I used to be an alcoholic, not anymore. Right. I don't think I am, but I am. I'm still drinking. Don't do drugs except for the drugs that I'm going to give you or that we're going to do together.
Right.
But the knife part is also one of the fundamental belief that Western medicine is not something you should be doing, like hospitals, doctors, those type of things. And there's another important one that we'll get back to later. In number 6 was the man and his woman are one. Let nothing separate them. So this is like, hey, me and Robin, like, we're monogamous, we're together. Don't let anything separate. You guys are all going to get married to each other. Eventually, I'm going to tell you who you're marrying, but you're going to be monogamous. That's a thing now. And his students, like, they're like, these are great, man, groovy. And they start dressing like him and calling him father and doing what he said. And he liked it. And so one of the things that he really does also is kind of like this love bombing. When you like met him, he would like hug you and whisper in your ear, welcome home. I am your father and you are my child. Ew!
Sure. Yeah,
Ew!
I bet like it was intended to be very comforting, and I'm sure for certain people that could be, but no.
If I was a 19-year-old woman and a 45-year-old man hugged me and said that in my face.
Would you kick him in the balls?
Oh yeah, I'd probably rip his testes off, but I would also vomit on the spot. That's disgusting.
That's gross.
Yeah, but these are kids, both men and women, with a lot of daddy issues, and that's why they're looking to join a cult. Things are really fucked up in the 70s because it's the 70s. So this all works for them. This is great. So March of 1972, Jim decides that, hey, my employees and my followers, you're so burdened by rent and paying your bills and the man. So
Fucking man.
why don't you just give me your money and we'll all move into one house?
Oh,
We'll just
way easier.
so much easier.
Gosh.
So at first, like, this is all really great because he gets a mansion. And he gets a 24-bedroom mansion called the Chandler Mansion in Los Feliz. And it was pretty swank. It had like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And this becomes known as the Mother House. And so while you're there, you get to like get up at 3 a.m., go swim in the pool, meditate with Jim. You got to smoke your sacred herb, but you only got to do that a few times a day. You're not getting high. Eat your sacred herb.
Right, it's part of meditation. It doesn't count.
Also, Jim and Robin don't live there. They live in their own place, like above the restaurant. Because I think they're just like, what the fuck? We're not living with all these people. But so that's how it starts off. Then they're also like, hey, Jim's like, if your flesh family, which is such a gross term, your flesh family is not joining you, you need to cut ties with them because they're not good for you. And a lot of the people who are following and working in the restaurant were underage kids, especially underage girls. And the parents weren't that happy about that. So Jim did have a solution: get married. So a lot of you come in as an underage follower, you got married to somebody. So then like they couldn't come in and say we're doing statutory rape. This is a marriage, which is why child bride things are terrible. All right, so say like I want to live at the Mother House. This sounds great. I've been going to the source and all these hot hippies are there. So
smoking weed and swimming all day. I mean,
yeah, it sounds great. All 100 of us living in one house. It sounds great. If anybody came up to the restaurant or thing and like express an interest, they would get Jim's written words of liberation and the 10 Commandments and get invited to a morning meditation. After they did that, they had 3 visits. Then Jim would ask them if they were devoted. And they would have to convince him that they really wanted to be there. And so they did that by giving him all of their shit.
I was going to say, but how do you show your devotion? Here's my money.
Here's all my monies. Take my monies. Money, please. All right. So then they would move into the Mother House and then get, oh, by the way, these are Father Jim's new teachings. You have to follow these. Please keep them in your notebook and don't tell anybody. You are sworn to secrecy about what happens here. Oh, and one more thing. You need to change your name. So everybody who was a part of the family changed their last name to Aquarian. And Jim would give them first names like Electricity, Isis, Sunflower, Mushroom.
I mean, did he pay them at random or did he try to like make it match their personality?
He, especially, I think a lot of like, so Robin becomes Aum. No.
It's just a noise.
It's spelled like A-H, like O-H, like Aum. Aum. But I think they always had like a story, like
it's not even a fucking name.
Yeah, anyway. But so Isis is like the she becomes a historian, and we'll hear more from her later. But yeah, and so but I like what happens like, and there's a really great biography by the woman named Mushroom. But I'm like, what do you got the name Mushroom?
Right?
And like
maybe she ate a lot of mushrooms.
Perhaps, or but also like Electricity. Like, hi, I'm Electricity.
She had an electric personality.
And these names, like, clearly they also just go down to like all the family, like, because a lot of kids are being birthed in this house too, right? Like, this is just happening, right? So much that 1972 in April, a 15-year-old girl named Heaven was having Sunflower's kid. Now, Sunflower is 28. They got married because her parents are like, why do you run away from home? We're sending the cops after you. And this is one of those, you're going to get married. So she's having Sunflower's baby. And Baker is like, well, we're going to have this at the house. So it's at the Mother House, for holistic reasons. Not so we didn't have to explain to a hospital why this 15-year-old girl was having a baby.
Right.
So there are 100 folks at the Mother House. They're watching Heaven go through her 22 hours of labor.
Oh, God.
And I will tell you, spoiler alert, in the documentary on the Source family, it's in there. The birth, the entire birth,
Wow.
yeah. So after 22 hours, the baby is finally born, stillborn, and it has an umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. What also in the movie? Ugh.
Oh God.
Yeah. So watch like this head like coming out of this bushy vag of a 15-year-old. Which is horrifying. So it comes out and it has the umbilical cord around its neck, and everyone's like, this child is dead. And then Jim takes the baby, basically tells God, like, if you make this kid okay, I will do nothing but say the word of God forever. And then he unwraps the cord from its neck, and the baby starts breathing. It's a miracle! So now everyone
I mean, you just stopped suffocating it. That's what happened.
Yeah. But
it's
everyone is
science.
Or God.
Sure.
Or Jim Baker.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, God. Yeah, go for
it. So everyone is further convinced that he's awesome. And so, but then, so things are going on. The year's going through. And he meets a 19-year-old named, I forget what her actual name was, but her name gets changed to Makushla. And when he meets her, he gets a revelation. Oh, women should be able to choose their own partner. Clearly, I love women.
Yeah, I don't think that was his motivation.
Yeah, so this revelation means that he and Makushla should bone. And Robin's like, hey.
Wait.
What about that commandment?
Wait a minute.
We made a fucking commandment. It's not like we even just like made our marriage vows. You made a commandment, asshole. Right. And he is like, you're stunted spiritually. And then she's just like, you're a perverted old man. I'm sorry. No, she says, you're a dirty old man on a lust trip.
Ooh.
But she stays with him.
Of course she does.
So she stays with him. And eventually, like, Baker gets up to 14 wives, most of them underage. And so this is upsetting to...
She still stays with him? Okay, like that one.
Yeah, he has 13 wives plus Robin. And a lot of the times, like when he was preaching, it was, and you can see this on the documentary, he just talks about balling, which is his code word for fucking, and like how good it is to be balling, and like, ugh, I hate this guy so much. All right, so they're at their mother house, and they've been there a year or two.
He's just eating veggies and fucking teenagers. That's his life.
Yeah, and doing drugs, tripping, and smoking the sacred herb, and balling, and reaching enlightenment. So,
sure.
And by 1973, though, the neighbors of the mother house are starting to complain. And part of it is, hey, Manson just happened. We don't really trust cults right now. They're kind of sketchy. But also, I'm betting they were shitty neighbors. Like,
they were probably not the best.
Like 100 people at a house. Like, they're naked everywhere. They're fucking everywhere. They smell. That, like, they all smell.
They aren't maintaining the yard.
Yeah, they're, like, farting carrots every day. Like, it's just... Like once a week, like they would all get into like their little vans and like go to the beach together and like their little white outfits and like go and you just know
they sound so annoying.
They sound terrible. They were they were the worst neighbors. And finally, like their landlord is like, "Hey, we're not renewing your lease." But also they were leasing this mansion, which I think is hysterical.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So they moved from the 24-bedroom mother house to the father house, which is a 3-bedroom house in Nichols Canyon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so is this like bunk beds going on?
Yeah, so they actually added 3-by-6-foot cubby holes to the bedrooms. So everyone's getting like
pods,
like Japanese pods. They were like that was actually the size of it was like the Japanese escape pod. That's what everybody had for their family living space too, probably not just like their own. Because remember, they're having kids, right? There was also no stove in the kitchen. I'm not sure if this was the father house or the mother house. I think it was the father house. And according to ISIS, there is no need for one. The family eats just twice daily, uncooked fruit and nuts and seeds and milk and honey. This morning, the women served a pie of crushed nuts topped by guacamole, sliced tomatoes, and alfalfa sprouts, a fruit and nut salad, sliced bananas with yogurt and carob dressing, wheat rolls with herb sauce, and milk. So these people are eating this, and there's like one bathroom.
It's all so much fiber.
Fiber and probiotics. That was disgusting. All right. So at this point, also, he decides that they need a band. So because living next door to these fuckers, that's what they're missing. Enough. Right,
is bad music.
Yeah. So he gives the drummer, whose name was Octavius, a budget of basically either somewhere from $30,000 to $50,000, which is basically a couple $100,000 in today's money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, to buy instruments and recording gear to set up a studio/rehearsal space in the family garage. Theoretically, they soundproofed it, but I doubt it. So the band gets formed with Sunflower, so Heaven's partner, and a guitarist named Jin, DJIN, like the genie. And so they make Aquarian music as Father Yod and the Spirit of 76. Because also, Father Yod was obsessed with the founding fathers and stonemasons. Partially because he was born on the 4th of July. I told you he's a Yankee Doodle dandy. So he names the band the Spirit of 76.
So weird.
It's so weird. And so while this band is going on, he's like, clearly, I need to be the singer. And he becomes the singer. And he also plays some kettle drums. He doesn't like the beat of anything. So he just kind of makes up words and lyrics, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, so we had to go improvisational. We'll get back to what happens to the Spirit of 76 in a minute. All right, so like I said earlier about the kind of the health thing, Baker had come to this belief, and it's something from other mysticism practices, that the blood platelets contain a person's memories, so that when you die, you have to be unembalmed for 3 days, and your blood goes through your body, and you remember everything that happened in this life, so you can learn from it, reincarnate into the next life, right? So because of that, that's one of the reasons that you can't go to the hospital, because what if they give you a blood transfusion, do all these other things that fuck up your thing. So, but we have all these people living in a tiny house, and they're not hygienic because you can't be. And so just staph infections just start breaking out all over the house. And they tried chanting, they tried visualizing the staph infections away, but somehow that's not working. Huh.
Weird.
Yep. So, but at this time, a young mother, she got a staph infection, and she gave it to her baby through nursing. And she's just kind of sitting there going like, do I take it to the hospital? Do I take it to the hospital? And finally she's just like, I gotta take it. Like, no, my baby's gonna die. Like, so, and remember, they have this secrecy thing, and they're not supposed to be like going to a hospital, telling people what they do, any of this stuff. But she takes the baby there, and they're like, if you waited like 1 more hour, this kid would have been dead. So the baby is actually saved. But then the hospital's like,
where did you live?
How does baby get a staph infection? Tell me what's going on. So investigations start happening more. And so Jem decides what we need more discipline and stricter rules. He decides that everyone needs to become a registered Sikh like him, because they have a religious exemption from embalming. So if somebody dies at the house, they don't need to go to a funeral home. And we don't need to report this to the authorities. Ooh, that's not sus at all, Jim. He also decides that women can only be with the men he chooses, and that a woman's role was to attend the earth trip of her designated God man, which is how he
What?
described his sons or the men that were around him. God man. Ugh. And you're going to get paired with them. Enjoy Octavius. All right. Also, women at this point now can no longer work outside the house, and they have to cook and clean instead. And according to former member Laura Garone, he decided that the women in his family should be impregnated and produce what he believed to be a new race of Aquarian children.
Oh.
Nice, right?
Yeah.
Also, according to her, when she became a nursing mother, he referred to her as one of the milk cows of the family. Clearly loves women, loves them so much. Also, they're not allowed to talk to people outside the family at this point because that could ruin their purity.
That's what he's worried about.
Their purity.
Their purity.
Yep. But he's also doing this for them because women are not emotionally equipped to deal with the outside world, and therefore he and the family had to protect them.
Huh. I mean, they haven't been doing it for, thousands of fucking years at this point.
Nope, we need Jim Baker to save us.
Hmm.
So, finally, 1974 comes and he gets another revelation. I'm God! Yay!
Wow. I mean, he doesn't have an ego at all.
At all. No. So, but also you're really seeing like kind of this typical cult leader escalation, right? So, I'm a spiritual man. You're following me. Oh, I need more wives. Oh, I'm God, right? Yeah. So he changes his name to Yahweh, and he changed the name of the band to Yahweh 13. So Yahweh 13, like in 3 different words. And their debut album, Cowatech, I forgot what rock thing I'm quoting this from, but was steeped in the avant-garde funk and jazz of Malcolm Mooney era Can, with additional vocals from family member Anastasia and 2 of Father Yod's 14 wives, Iome and Aquariana. Aquariana, can you imagine that being your name? I'm Aquariana Aquarian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't her last name Aquarian? That's fucking awful.
Yeah. I mean,
but then again, I think that's the least of our concerns with everything else going on. Is her name.
Yeah, and this day also, I'm kind of like, well, I mean, maybe Aquariana is not that bad of a name. So, over the course of 2 years, Yahweh 13 recorded 65 albums, 9 of which were actually pressed, and they all had various names of names and lineups in there with different source members. And Baker just is like, I love being a rock star. I'm so cool. And so he starts taking pictures with all his wives, and actually some of these pictures are stunning. And this is one of the problems with this cult. And as we get to the end, we talk about the documentaries and things, it's just like this image of them being super stylish and super cool. Cause like, here's like, I'm this cool Yahweh with all my fucking bitches, and these women, they're hot. Like, they're really gorgeous hippie women in all these beautiful clothes. And he also is like, you know what else I need? I need a Rolls Royce. So basically he embezzles $34,000 and gets a purple Rolls Royce to go running around town. They start going to all the Hollywood clubs, and they're just balling. The government says, hey,
wait a minute.
And they start to investigate.
Uncle Sam didn't like that?
Well, I mean, he got rid of Spirit of 76. And so I think once he was like, no, now I'm talking about God, they're like, hold up. You were patriotic, but now you're just a shitty embezzler.
That was their concern. Okay.
That was a concern, not any other of the shit the shit we're about to get into. All right. So things are starting to go a little weird, right? And so he's starting to cling in things and just become more and more mystical. And he really gets obsessed with Aleister Crowley. Fucking douchebag Aleister. Why does it always come down to him? He gets obsessed with Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn, and particularly sex magic. So, first off, it just starts kind of easy. And he starts just doing some teaching tantric sex. Like, we were just going to build up, fuck up our emotions, and on this trip with me and my underage women. And then he starts introducing kadosh, which I think is how you say it. That's how I heard someone on the podcast, The Cult, say it. So I'm going with that. And kind of goes back and forth about what this is. But basically, if you're a woman on your menstrual cycle, you had to have sex with multiple men because your menstrual cycle is full of power. Your blood is. So you need to bang as many men as possible within our family, not outside the family, of course, and
Right.
often one right after the other. um, then the blood was mixed with the semen and not confirmed, but pretty sure they ate it. Nobody will confirm that, but pretty sure. And the reason why I'm pretty sure is that Garone was talking about there's this tarot deck. I love tarot decks.
I know you do. I can't.
I know when you start Googling, you're going to see the pictures.
No.
You will, because they're going to show up. And it's just like Jim fucking his wives, like on this tarot deck. And she says there is one card where there is a naked Makushla, she's laying down, and Jim is holding a chalice to her mouth to signify they just did Kadosh. All right, so now we've got sex magic. So that makes a great cult. But you know what a cult really needs? They need apocalypse doom. So now Jim just starts saying, oh shit, the apocalypse is coming and it's going to hit LA. And so we need to leave. So I'm going to sell the restaurant. So, which is probably a really fucking stupid move because this was their income. Like at this peak, it was bringing in $300,000 a month. At this point, I don't know if it still was, but it was a very successful. I mean, fucking John Lennon would go eat there. Like,
it was very successful.
It was very successful. Sure. So he sells it. And then he's like, I've had visions of mangoes. And so Hawaii is going to be safe from the apocalypse. So we're all going to Hawaii. And, or at least that'll be safe from all the people we've pissed off. Like, Child Protective Services, these underage girls' parents, the government, the health department, the building inspectors, sure. Various law enforcement. They won't be in Hawaii. So they moved to Kauai.
It's a very long flight.
So they moved to Kauai, and much to their chagrin, they were not met with lays. They were met with suspicions and threats of gun violence. And the sexy family just doesn't understand. I mean, we're pretty. So basically, like
y'all are fucking weirdos. Just because we live on an island doesn't mean we buy into your shit.
Yeah, and there's also at this time like a lot of cults are just going to Hawaii and trying to like set up shop, and like also the islanders just really don't like outsiders, especially on Hawaii. They don't. And I have a friend who lives there now, and apparently that is still the case. And
it is, yeah.
So Baker decides that he is going to use the money from the sale of the restaurant to buy a fishing boat and an airplane so that they can see the fish from above. Yeah, it's not great. Sure. It's not great. They're not making any money. They're getting threatened. So basically they get a bunch of guns. They post guards and they set up a range, and Jim is like, you need to shoot to kill. Look, I killed 2 guys on bare hands. Y'all can shoot somebody with a rifle. And they're like, but we're hippies. We don't believe in violence. I dodged the draft to get away from this. So things just go to shit. And after a few months, he decides that I need to go find a new home for us. So I'm going to take me, Robin, Makushla, 2 other wives, and 2 of our male dudes. And we're going to go find our new home. So we're going to travel around the world first class. They go to India, they go to Egypt, they go to Greece, they go to Denmark, Germany, England, and Canada. Meanwhile, in Hawaii, everybody's starving. They're eating fruit that they're finding in the jungles, and everything's getting repossessed. And Jim did leave them, instructions on how to get jobs and feed themselves, but they're broken children who are in a cult and they don't know how to do anything. They've been working in a restaurant forever, and they're really they are shunned from being hired anywhere on the island.
Right, it's just because they're part of a cult and they're outsiders.
Yeah, it was like, you can go on welfare. Here's your welfare. It's a one-way ticket back to the States. So they all decide they can't wait for him to come back anymore. So they all go to San Francisco to wait for him, but they don't have a house. So they get 4 motel rooms for 100 of them.
Oh no.
Baker comes back and he's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Like, you're gonna call like all the like we were trying to avoid the attention of cops. Like, this is not good." And he
No.
was like, he shames the male followers for not getting jobs, and he starts threatening them like, "You need to find jobs
I
or you
mean,
leave."
he's not wrong, right?
He's not wrong, but also, what the fuck were you doing, Jim? Uh, so June of 1975, he goes back to Hawaii, and this time they go to the Big Island, and everything still sucks. So they just start doing a bunch of coke and nitrous oxide. It's like you do.
I mean, mixing it up a little bit.
Things are shitty, so let's do some nitrous. Baker moves in with a hang gliding expert. And while he's living with them, he gets a revelation that he's going to die and they need to prepare. He also decides that he's going to go hang gliding. He's never been hang gliding, and
it's a weird plan if you've had that revelation.
Yep, and this is also an island where people are like, you shouldn't go hang gliding there. Like, the winds are really shitty. Like, unless like you're somebody, nobody should hang glide here. But he is like, it's fine. Jesus is the wind. Jesus will take care of me. So he goes hang gliding and he jumps off this cliff. And at first things are fine. The wind is blowing. And then Jesus just stops the wind and he splats to the ground.
Oh.
So, but he doesn't die. So he's on the ground and all his followers come running up and like, what should we do? And Makushla is like, remember, you don't believe in hospitals. And so they're like, what should we do? And he's like, transmute my pain. And nobody knows what that means. And they just start chanting like, transmute my pain, transmute his pain. And like, while these women are all screaming, this is all filmed, by the way. So they take him back to the house, right? So they take him back and they're like, okay, how are we going to fix him? So they give him champagne, aspirin, marijuana, cocaine, and nitrous oxide. So, and everyone thinks he's fine because he just gets too high to feel anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that didn't actually probably, all the internal injuries that he suffered when he fell out of the sky, and he dies. So the Source family continues.
But he died high.
He died baked. The Baker died baked.
High and surrounded by his many, many wives.
High and surrounded by his many, many wives. So the Source family does try and continue for a couple of years. Makushla is like leading it as the spiritual leader with the rest of the wives, even keeping Kadosh alive. But in 1977, they end up going their separate ways. And they all have different stories. Some of them were actually very successful. There's a few that are millionaires. Others joined other cults because they needed some people just belong in cults, right? And there are others who still have not let go, who are still have Aquarian in their name, including Isis the historian, who is one of the wives, who claims that Baker speaks to her regularly and says that she still has work to do. And but also, if you try and speak badly about the family now, like, they're still coming after people, according to Garone and other people. Like, they're really trying to keep this idea of like this positive, like, utopian world.
Wow.
Yep. In 2007, the founding Yahovah 13 members get back together. Yeah, everyone really wanted that. And to play the release of Isis and Electricity Aquarian's book, The Source, The Untold Story of Father Yod. And the band followed up with several shows on the West Coast and released the album Sonic Portation in 2008 and 2013 and 2010. Several major musical groups cite them as an inspiration, and the albums are really collectible psychedelic rock albums now. They cost a fuck ton of money, and they're fucking awful. They are awful.
Don't make me listen to that.
No, I'm not going to make you listen to them. No, I listen to them. My ears will not recover from that.
Okay. Good.
Don't listen to them.
I mean, not good that your ears won't recover. I'm just glad that you're not going to make me.
But then things get even grosser. In 2009, American Apparel teamed with Anthology Recordings to digitally release Yahovah 13's music and produce a Source Family t-shirt featuring a photo of Jim Baker on the front and the Family Commandments on the back. Yeah. Fuck you,
but
American
like
Apparel.
also, is it kind of like kitschy, like funny to like wear some like cult shit
Well,
or
and I'm
not?
sure everyone thought it was kitschy and funny, except when you think about the fact this is a pedophile who is basically
Yeah, poor
enslaving a
chicks.
bunch of women to do his bidding and then making them drink their periods mixed with cum.
Yeah, no, it's gross too.
Fuck this
But
dude.
like, it's also like people do like wear like fucking like serial killer shit.
Yeah, but I think these people really aren't like thinking of it as like irony. I think they're just like these guys, like they're style icons, right? It becomes
Right.
like these guys were cool. Like Che
They tried to
Guevara was
they
cool, you know?
successfully they in some regard they successfully rebranded themselves,
Yeah, they
which
did,
is
and
impressive and fucked up.
yeah. So in 2012, the Source Family documentary is released, and this is the one where you can see a fuck ton of vagina, way more vagina and penises than you ever wanted to see. And I watched
Hmm.
Naked Attraction while I was in England, which, by the way, you should watch Naked Attraction. Oh shit. I will explain later. So everybody in this is like pretty much pro the family, and they interview all these people who have kept their names. They all say like good shit about being in there and their experience in there. So there's still people out there talking about how great this was. Blah. In 2019, the restaurant Gratitude Kitchen and Bar decided they were going to redo the Source's menu with featuring CBD doses and optional wine pairings for a $75 5-course dinner. And of course, ISIS was there to tell stories. So, and everyone who
Weird.
came had to wear white or cream clothing. Y'all, no, no. Yeah, so that's the story of how a